All right, and we're back at it here on the Pop Culture Cosmos. Before we go any further with our review of Captain Marvel, I just want to go ahead and send a special message out there to our good friends at Retro City Games who have supported us from day one. Want to wish Doug and Nicole of Retro City Games all the best with their newborn baby boy Jack, born actually the day we're taping this on Sunday. So we just cannot congratulate them enough for the birth of their child, their first child together. So I'm just truly happy for the both of them, and I tell you what, just long and lasting happiness for the entire family. But speaking of family, I've got two great guys here. There are Team Game Source, otherwise known as Stereo Monroy. It is Jamie Monroy and his son, who rumor has it is the smarter half of the family there. It is Mr. Tony Monroy. And well, I'm considered the dumber half of mine, so that's be that as it may. But guys, it's just great to have you back on. We're going to be talking some non-spoilery non-spoilery reviews, thoughts on the actual movie itself. It is Captain Marvel. It's hit big all over the world. You know what, Jamie? I'm going to start off with you, my dearest friend. What's going on as far as your thoughts with Captain Marvel when after all is said and done? Going into non-spoilers first off, so be warned, everybody out there. We're going to try and stay away from spoilers as much as we can, but we might sneak in a couple by accident here or there. If you want to hear our spoilers thoughts, we're going to have a full spoiler cast on Wednesday. But right now, Jamie, your thoughts on Captain Marvel?
It's really something that I had to keep my eye on. Oh, wait. Sorry,
Oh, very
sorry.
sharp indeed, my
Very
friend.
sharp, very sharp. It was, it was. I don't want to say I was surprised because I really wasn't surprised. It was a decent, solid movie. Um, it didn't really drag along the whole origin thing, which was good. Very quick paced with it, and just kept the flow very well. I enjoyed it.
Tony, your
Yeah,
thoughts initially on Tony, your thoughts initially on Captain Marvel. Was it something when you got out of theater that said, you know what, I'd really like to see her story continue on in a sequel or even more in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
most definitely. Uh, even if the movie hadn't have been as good as it even was, I would have said that because I think she's fantastic as a character, and I really want to see more.
Absolutely. I know I do. If you want to check out my full written thoughts, it is on popculturecosmos.com. In a nutshell, I thought the movie was pretty good. Not great, but pretty good. It is certainly not what a lot of other individuals out there are thinking as far as trying to give out negative vibes on it. It's actually a solid origin movie. I agree with both you guys. It's not great. There was some flaws here and there, some holes you want to poke through with as far as plot points, some gaps that were missing, and some opportunities that they didn't take to go ahead and enhance the Marvel Cinematic Universe that much more. Jamie, I want to ask you real quick, when you were watching it and you saw her character develop from a standpoint of, I guess, her I don't want to say origin on the Kree homeworld, but her reborn again attitude type, her reborn again, I guess, system when she starts developing her powers in the Kree homeworld. What were your thoughts as far as any time spent on there? And did you want to actually see more of what went on with Captain Marvel, Brie Larson, Carol Danvers in on Kree? Maybe her interaction with Jude Law's character Jan Rog, or Annette Bening, or anything else when it comes to Star Force on the planet of Kree.
I think that is something that I would have not been too bothered by seeing a little more of. I think a little more time on that would have been, I don't want to say beneficial, or just maybe been entertaining.
And how so? I mean, just because it's a world that you've never seen that you wanted to actually see more developed. I mean, we've only seen little small bits of it. I guess basically through conversations mainly from Guardians of the Galaxy and some other very just small parts of it. Agents of Shield and whatnot. So I guess that's probably what you wanted to see a little bit more of developed is her life when it comes to the life she's led the past a few years as far as on the home world of Kree.
Absolutely. That would have been, I think, the best chance to maybe dwell more into that.
Was there certain aspects of the film that you liked more of, as far as, without going too much into spoiler territory? I mean, was there some of the actors that you liked specifically? I mean, Brie Larson herself. How do you think she handled the role of Captain Marvel?
I think she handled it quite well. I also think they did a great job taking everybody back to the 90s.
That they did. It was 90s nostalgia, my friend. For me, it just seemed like yesterday, but all the things that were there. There are some very, very distinct nods to 90s culture and 90s life. I know Tony wouldn't know anything about that. It's just,
You'd be surprised.
oh, okay, okay. Well, I'd like to see you type on one of the computers that were there in the film, but we won't go there. But I used to sell those for a living way back when in the 90s. So let's not even go there. But Tony, I want to ask you this. Do you agree with your dad that Brie Larson's performance was effective, was an effective enough turn as Captain Marvel, that thinks it's that you think it's going to be a really that she is going to be a really foundation piece going forward in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Yeah, I thought her performance was fantastic for a female lead character. It was pretty much amazing. There was nothing that like crept out as like bad or anything. I think she hit both the character as Captain Marvel, and then mixing in with the 90s vibe. I think that hit pretty well, I guess. Try not to hit spoilers, but yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll be hitting
she did
spoilers
great.
on the Wednesday show. No worries on that. That's some excellent points right there. And on top of that, Tony, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Samuel L. Jackson and his part as Nick Fury. I liked it for the fact that it was a different Nick Fury before the whole superhero, Iron Man, Avengers, War, Battle of New York, the whole nine yards. It was definitely a different Nick Fury. And without going into spoilers, but I mean, because people can check out some of it already when they watch the trailers.
Right.
And it's not just the CG, which I'll tell you what right now. I'll tell you what right now. The de-aging of of Samuel L. Jackson was probably some of the best I've ever seen, because of how much they had to devote to de-aging him. But he also, in his character, de-aged as well.
Well, I don't know who's talking.
You. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I thought the de-aging was amazing. I thought it was very on point, and I liked seeing Nick Fury as this, like, you still knew he was Nick Fury, but for once you saw another side of him as someone who had, I guess, like a friend in a sense. He seemed a little more casual, but the same at the same time, if that makes sense.
Well, he was a low-level Shield agent at that point in time, and Clark Gregg's character, Agent Coulson, Agent Coulson was just fresh out of the academy, so they were both at a young point. I'm going to say this, Jamie. I told you how much I loved the CG for Nick Fury for Samuel L. Jackson at that point in time in his life, and I believe they got the footage from the Negotiator movie back in the 90s. I think that's where they got. Yeah, I think that's where they borrowed it. I don't know where they borrowed it for Agent Coulson, Clark Gregg, but for me that was hit and miss. Your thoughts on the CGing of both those guys, but also the performance of Samuel L. Jackson as well.
I feel like the CG for Coulson might have been a little light. Maybe you just kind of went into the early, maybe Avenger days of like, oh, here we go, let's just rip this, because it's maybe one of his B-rate movie days. Before and after Avengers. You never know, but I feel like more was definitely put into Samuel's character, which is good. It's good. I feel like they weren't really trying to put too much emphasis on Coulson at this point, which, why would they? Fresh out of the academy, he's not established yet, where that's even where I get the feeling of that with Samuel L. Jackson's character as well. It's kind of coming into its own. It's kind of like the birth of the Fury that we all know and love.
Did you like the interplay between him and Brie Larson's character, Captain Marvel, in the film?
I did. I did. I think it went across, well. I see where he kind of maybe later down the road takes how he kind of is with Natasha. It's kind of different. You see a relationship there, and this kind of maybe fills in that blank of why it's like that. Because it seems like this is like his first time out with something big like this, So
Oh yeah, I mean, it's the first time he's met actually someone from outer space. So definitely, his world had been topsy turvied all over the place. That fateful day he met up with Captain Marvel, and his life, and also the planet Earth, in the MCU would never be the same after that. Tony, I want to ask you this. Just is there anything else about the movie that stands out to you? Maybe Ben Mendelsohn as the leader of the Skrulls, or any of the performances, or did you like the action of the movie? Anything else that stood out to you in regards to Captain Marvel that just you really have to tell people out without going too much into spoilers?
The effects, the visual effects were fantastic. Through every scene, it was just I thought it was awesome. And going back to the 90s setting, you saw a lot of things that that aren't around anymore. And I think that they captivated that era, and it didn't seem like we were in modern day, but it also didn't feel like we were I didn't feel like the movie was slowed down because of the time, except for maybe a few scenes. But I thought it was awesome. I thought all the effects were awesome. I thought the set, the action, of course, mixes in with that. So I think everything was set pretty nicely.
it figures that Fury's car was a '90s Impala. Just saying.
Just saying, just saying. Jamie, did you want to chime in with any of your thoughts on exactly anything else you think stood out to you when it comes to Captain Marvel, or is there something that maybe you felt was a little bit of a negative as far as the movie is concerned?
I think a character that we could all take away would be Goose, but I don't want to go too crazy because that might lead towards those spoiler things. But I actually walked away from that going, you know what, I never would have thought that a cat would be that important, but a cat can become very important. Let's just say that.
Yes, let's just say that it is something that Goose. Well, it's been widely reported as far as the reviews out there. Goose, who is Captain Danvers. Excuse me, Goose, who is Captain Marvel's cat in the film, really steals the show in a lot of scenes. So it is something that, yes, is very cute. It's very lovable and very. Just very different, I should say, for a cat to be in the movie such as that and doing the things that cat does. So it is very something. It's a very good representation right there. Steals the show at every point, almost every scene. Last thing I want to ask you guys before we head into spoiler. Last thing before we head on out, and once again, last thing before I head on out, Jamie, I got to hear your thoughts, man. If you were to give the movie a grade between 1 to 10 on your scale, on the Jamie scale, what we got for you?
On the Jamie scale, to some this might sound low, but I'm going to give it an 8.5.
8.5. That's still a very strong score. And Tony, I know you love the film, so I want to hear your thoughts. What if you were to give it an actual grade? Let's hear your thoughts on what that grade might be.
Honestly, I was gonna give it the same score. I don't think it was as strong as something like Infinity War or even Doctor Strange. I thought Doctor Strange might have been a little better, but it was definitely a very strong Marvel movie.
Very good indeed. So those are two very high scores. If you want to see what my score is, I thought that movie, like I said, was okay. If you want to see my score of it, you got to check out my review on popculturecosmos.com. That's right, popculturecosmos.com, and you'll see my review in detail, where I outline not only outline my thoughts on the film, but also as well, I go ahead and break down a lot of the components of what was going on behind the scenes, the controversies behind what some of the things that were said and done, the reaction to it, the negative, and also the positive as well. And obviously, it's generated a ton of cash out there. over $450 million at the box office. They've got great reviews here from our guys at Game Source, and somewhere there's some trolls feeling some hurt right now. That's all I'll say. Once again, I'm with Stereo Monroy, Jamie Monroy, and Tony Monroy from Game Source. You got to check out both of their Twitch streams today. It is Dark Tales for Tony Monroy, and that's Dark Tales with two Z's, and then also as well Jamie Monroy, Degenerate 2018 on Twitch. You got to check out all the great game playing that they do, as much as they can during the course of each and every week on Twitch. Guys, we are now in spoiler territory. We have reached the land, and we are now going to cross into it when it comes to Captain Marvel. So let's first off say right now, anything you want to talk about? Well,
everybody dies.
Yeah, there you go. Just like Avengers Infinity War. But I will say we are reaching now, and we're surpassing, and we're going into spoiler territory. Guys, whatever you want to do, it's free reign. The next few minutes are yours in regards to what you want to talk about and how you want to break that down, and I'll go from there. Jamie, I'll start with you when it comes to spoilers territory. The double twist ending, which concerns, I guess, what the Kree and the Skrulls, which of course is portrayed one way in the trailers. Well, as you and I both know, it's quite different when it ends up in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts on that? Your thoughts on that twist? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you see it coming? Did you see it coming a mile away?
I don't know, because I just said I really didn't like it. So I just kind of it was one of those parts of the things for me that where I said the movie got quick and to the point and kind of did what it needed to do. That was kind of one of those things for me wrapped into that, to where I could have done with or without it. I honestly feel worse for the people that left before the end credit scene. Like they had no idea in the world there would be one.
Exactly. That's still, even with the Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, everybody should know right now to stay for the end credits. But people even left the theater during when I watched it, which was just amazing. I think people, once they saw the mid-credit scene and Avengers Endgame being set up, either it's the scene in Avengers Endgame or it's something to set up that movie where Captain Marvel returns after the beeper finally shuts off in the middle of the Avengers headquarters with the surviving members of the Avengers all right there. Then there you go. They turn around and suddenly she's there. So it looks like she's ready for battle in Avengers Endgame. But Tony, when it comes to the movie itself, the double twist is that Yon-Rogg, who was a mentor to her over the past 6 years, was actually someone all along with the Supreme Intelligence played by Annette Bening, that both of those individuals, Yon-Rogg, the entire Space Force, and the Supreme Intelligence of Kree actually ended up being the bad guys because they actually want to just go ahead and exterminate the Skrulls. And all the Skrulls are doing at this point is trying to find a home for their race. So your thoughts on the actual double twist of the movie that, I guess, for me, I saw it a little ways coming. For me, I saw it a little bit in advance because of the fact that Jude Law, you could just tell Jude Law was chomping at the bit to become something other than what he was during the course of the film. And once they did flip the switch, it just seemed like he was enjoying himself so much more. So your thoughts on the actual double switch itself as far as the Skrulls and the Kree, and did you like it? And do you think it sets up something for the future between the continued war between those two races?
I actually liked it a lot. Which I guess might sound weird to some people. It might not to others. But for someone who, like me, I've always known who Captain Marvel is. Like, that's such a staple of a character. But I never dwelled like into origins or anything like that, whether it been from comics. So I don't know like how much it keeps its continuity. But obviously this is MCU, so either way it's different. I liked the switch between them because honestly it kind of just makes sense. Like, the good guys might not always seem like the good guys just because she was on that side at the beginning of the movie. That doesn't mean she was on the right side. So I think that's why it was able to be set up so well. and I thought that Jude Law definitely portrayed a villain in a really good way. And then the Skrulls, I like them a lot as like a race. I think they're really neat, and they definitely have some funny humor going for them. So I think that'll be enjoyable. I hope that gets set up with something in the future, whether it be a sequel or maybe even in Endgame, because as we saw towards the end of the movie, the Captain Marvel and them going off to go find a home. Whether or not they were able to finish that war, I guess maybe we'll hear something about it. Maybe not, but I hope they get brought back up.
I'm pretty sure that they will in Captain Marvel 2 at the very least. I'm sure that because it's out there within a space frame, as far as whether it's in the upcoming movie, like I said, Captain Marvel 2, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, or anything else that the MCU puts out there in the next phase that involves space, I think the Kree or the Skrulls may be involved in some form or fashion. I know, Jamie, that there was a lot of good things that you talked about when it concerns Captain Marvel, as far as all the spoilers and things of that nature now that we're going into. Is there anything in regards to maybe the I guess the accident and actually how it happened that you really liked? In fact, that it was actually Annette Bening, the real Annette Bening's character on Earth was actually not a human. It was actually a Kree, after all, who was trying to go ahead and save the Skrulls. And I know a lot of people might have been confused at that point, but was there any point in time where you thought this is jumbling all over the place when it concerns the storyline with the double switch and the intentions of Annette Bening as far as her trying to go ahead and save the Skrulls in the first place?
Not really, because I think that should be implied as far as this goes, because with them being shape-shifting and everything else, you have to be able to keep up with the fact that you could be seeing one thing, but being fed totally different subject as far as what you're seeing, or vice versa, being fed the truth and thinking you're seeing something that might not be what you're seeing.
And I truly enjoyed Ben Mendelsohn this time around, as far as what we initially thought was a bad guy, as far as the head of the Skrulls, Talos. But in this point in time, he just really looked like he was having a good time, because the fact that he didn't appear to at the end, he wasn't actually, like you said, as he actually was looking like in the first place. He ended up being a good person. He ended up being good after all. He was only looking out for the best of his people, his race. He was looking out for only the best of his race, as far as taking the Skrulls, like we've talked about, to a new home, and with the help of Captain Marvel near the end of the movie. But we've talked about some of the other stuff going on. Some of the things that bothered me was the lack of, I guess, involvement from everybody outside of Yon-Rogg and also Annette Bening when she played the Supreme Intelligence. What were your thoughts, Tony, in regards to the Star Force and also Ronan the Accuser? I had said before, Ronan the Accuser in Guardians of the Galaxy was one of my favorite villains, because it seemed like the actor Lee Pace was just having a great time.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, I just think it looked like he was so much more subdued. His voice was actually totally different than what it was in Guardians of the Galaxy. It just seemed like it was like Lee Pace the Accuser instead of Ronan the Accuser. Because he's not in the film hardly at all.
Right,
he's just there. It's almost like a blink and you miss it. And the Star Force seemed totally underused.
I think that there it might have its reasons. I can actually understand their like a critical hit on that, because I think that might be why he might have seemed subdued, because he didn't have that much time in the movie. Like it would be like a Luke Skywalker pull. You're putting so much emphasis on it, but he's only there for a second, type thing. So maybe that's why it was might have been changed, or maybe he didn't seem like he was, I guess. But as for the Star Force, I think we could have seen more. However, I wouldn't have wanted that to kind of mix in against the story at hand, which was, all right, the origin story of Captain Marvel. This is about her and her movie, and I think getting the best thing I liked about it was it felt like we were learning as an audience at the same time as Captain Marvel was learning about herself. It wasn't like we were being told a story. It was like we were a part of seeing this unfold. And I think that's why that was okay to maybe skip over a lot of the Star Force stuff. Because honestly, their characters, while they seemed all really cool, I think they just worked so much better like towards the end of the movie with all the action than they did like in the beginning with the mission. Like I don't want to see an hour and a half of Captain Marvel being this like rogue person on missions and like defying rules and stuff like that, because you see that enough in movies already.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I just think as well that they could have done better as far as taking care of the Star Force and actually making them more important into the complex of the movie. But you know what? Maybe they have plans for the Star Force at some point in time down the road, possibly even a Captain Marvel 2. Jamie, my friend, one last question before I got to hit out, before we, head on out. And then I'll actually ask you one last question as well, Tony. But Jamie, I know we talked about it on the Monday show, and here it comes, my friend, regarding Goose the cat, because I saved her for you, my friend. Goose the cat was a flirkin, which is a cat that actually spews out tentacles and also swallows up tesseracts in this movie. So, your thoughts on Goose's role and the whole thing? Did you like the fact that it has those tentacles, that capability? And were you surprised the fact that Goose played such a major role in the film and has not been seen since in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Can I point out the obvious vibe that it gave me? Did
Absolutely.
anybody else just get that whole Men in Black vibe?
Absolutely. That one scene where I guess she's giving birth in the car and Will Smith is like standing right next to her, and then while Tommy Lee Jones is talking to the guy, and
So it wasn't just me that got that whole
yeah,
throwback.
absolutely, and the tentacles grabbed. And then also to an extent, Groot has almost that same type of ability as far as grabbing a whole bunch of bad guys at one time, and instead of throwing them around all the place and killing them, Goose actually goes ahead and grabs them all and eats them. So
Do you think this is their way of throwing in a more darker, deeper Groot into the universe right now?
maybe, possibly, who knows? If he gets off the Defender game, you never know when he comes back, or if he comes back. But most likely he'll come back from the dead in Avengers Endgame. And right back to the Defender game, which at almost any adolescent will do. So. Kidding. The video games. But I will say you're right. Goose stole the show anytime Goose was on the screen. I'm just concerned as far as how are they going to explain Goose's absence for the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's something that I want to know about. Goose, I imagine it's going to show up somewhere in Avengers Endgame so they can try to explain it. But to me, that Goose was not involved at all in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even as just a cat, kind of just gives me that,
I'm almost wondering that. Have we seen a cat and not seen the cat and just not realized it? Has it been so subtle that they're going to play it off that way?
Maybe. I don't know. It seems very...
I'll be totally in 100% agreement with you, though. I mean, there's never been any emphasis on a cat until now.
Exactly. Right. And now they're going to have to try and shoehorn Goose in because everybody loves Goose, and everybody that watched the movie is going to end up loving Goose, and going to sell a lot of Funko toys, shirts, yada yada yada. And it's just the fact that you're now going to have to wedge Goose into the Marvel Cinematic Universe somewhere and explain where Goose has been laying eggs. And according to the comic books, Goose lays like 50,000 eggs or something like that. Lots and lots of eggs at one time. And it just, that's great and all, but you're now going to have to shoehorn it in. It's going to seem like, I don't know, it's just going to seem a little lazy writing to do it at this point, instead of having that forethought way back when about where you wanted to go with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and little touches like that. It's little touches like that throughout the film that held it back for me. And I'll discuss that with Josh coming up here later on in the program. But, yeah, it's just it was kind of one of the little things that bothered me. One of the things that bothered me was the Tesseract. And the fact that the Tesseract does show up in the film, it does get used by Annette Bening's doctor character in while she is on Earth. She's a Kree agent defector that actually was put on Earth for a secret mission, but decided she wanted to go ahead and help the Skrulls make a transwarp engine. In the process, she needed to go ahead and procure the Tesseract in order to go ahead and make this transwarp engine so that they could go ahead and find it home. Tony, your thoughts on the Tesseract? And at the very last scene, it is our friend Goose the Cat, who originally, who originally on the ship that they were on before they went ahead and went back to Earth, actually went ahead and consumed the Tesseract so that they could hold it, because God forbid a Happy Days lunchbox could hold it, even though it actually, if you remember Captain America, the First Avenger, at the very end, when Red Skull and Captain America were fighting, after Red Skull gets sapped up into the space, as far as that scene is concerned, you see the actual you see the Tesseract actually burning through metal like acid as it falls to the ocean. And no human or no mortal wants to touch it, because it's all it can just really do some damage on you. So
Yeah.
I want to hear your thoughts on the last scene with Goose the Cat, who steals the show at every point in time, except for the last scene, the end credit scene, after all the credits are done, who, instead of hawking up a hairball, hawks up the Tesseract, which instead of going through and just burning through every material, does just lands right there and just sits right there on Nick Fury's desk. Explain that to me, my friend. Explain it.
There's
Fonzie lunchbox. Hey.
Exactly. How can you keep it in the lunchbox if it actually eats through metal in the first place?
Yeah, it's so difficult, right? Because I mean, we're not the ones that write these movies. We're not the one that makes these.
I wish we were.
I don't know how that would work out. I thought it was a little weird to see the original scene, like the consuming scene in the first place, because it's like, oh, well, that just happened, I guess. And I wasn't expecting to see that, and then I was also wondering, okay, so they just Goose just consumed this Tesseract. How is this going to play into where we found the Tesseract in Captain America? Because that was like the first, or that was the time where we saw it.
Well, in Captain America, the First Avenger, after it falls through Red Skull's ship, or plane or jet or whatever it called it at that point in time, and falls to the ocean floor. Yeah. After the war's over, Howard Stark finds the Tesseract.
Okay.
And some point in time, it's kept in isolation, but somehow Annette Bening's character, the Doctor, finds it, uses it for that as a power source for that transwarp engine.
Right. That's okay. So that's where the connection just seems weird. Like the Tesseract is always bouncing between so many places, and then you got the fake Tesseract that was on Asgard as well, and then obviously that's destroyed now. But it's so weird seeing it everywhere, and then. It's the Tesseract. Does it have a mind of its own to where it's like, I want to melt today. I want to just melt through stuff today.
Or, I mean, seriously, exactly.
It's like, does it have its own ability to do that? Because it's the Tesseract. Like, how do you even explain that to begin with? And then obviously, I don't know. I think it's weird. Obviously, there's a lot of holes you can poke through different things. But I don't think that should bring the whole vibe of the movie down at the same time, No,
but it's just one of the many logistical reasons why, and logic errors and story loopholes that I couldn't put it as high as you guys put it. I thought it was still, like I said, a good movie, but it wasn't to the point where I enjoyed it as much as you guys did, because these were not just little nitpicky things. These are for me, glaring omissions for someone who's watched 20 previous Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. So
right.
I can't let it slide as much as you guys can.
I see your point totally, though. As much as I let it slide, it's still it didn't
It's
get
ju-
past me. There were still the things there that were upsetting to the point that they were like, it's almost like they threw. Okay, don't get me wrong, because this movie is obviously, what it is, but it's almost like they threw it together like Tokyo Drift. Tokyo Drift came out, was thrown into the mix, and was thrown into the mix totally out of context and out of the way it should have been. And then later down the road, they said, oh crap, we never did explain why this, that, and that. So then they had to connect X, Y, and Z to A, B, and C, which still ended up kind of making sense, I guess.
Well, kind of making sense of the fact that Shaw, as far as Jason Statham's character, actually supposedly ended up killing Han in the Tokyo Drift, which takes place in a later time, even though it's one of the first movies out. And you also got to remember, everybody's now great and hunky dory with Jason Statham's character Shaw, even though he killed the much beloved Han, which shouldn't be the case. Shouldn't be the case at all. Why would he be pals now with Vin Diesel? Okay, they mend fences because he saved the baby, and that in the most recent Fast and Furious. And why is he? Why is he and The Rock now able to go ahead and have some type of relationship? Although that's the gist of their upcoming Hobbs movie, Hobbs and Shaw movie. So it just, that part of it, like you said, it does not make sense. I think it was that when they did that, that was a reach. But that is another spoiler cast entirely when it comes to the Fast and Furious, because that
Yes.
series is almost bad as far as timelines as the X-Men. So we will not go there. But
True story.
not, at least not right now. But it is, once again, Jamie Monroy and Tony Monroy from GameSource. You got to check out their awesome Twitch channels today, Degenerate 2018, and also as well Dark Tales with 2 Z's on Twitch as well. So guys, I just cannot thank you enough for going ahead and sharing your thoughts on Captain Marvel, both in a non-spoilery fashion and a spoilery fashion for those that get to listen to it as well. Just appreciate
Speaking
you
of
guys taking it.
spoilers, Gerald,
Huh?
I did touch on one, but didn't go there. But was anybody else as let down as the reasoning behind Fury's eyeball as I was?
Oh, me too. Right there. Me too. Yes. That's a major spoiler. How did he? Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye. Well, that wasn't actually a someone. It was actually a cat. So yeah, that was just a very disappointing um, type of deal. So it was very disappointing as far as how that was laid out. So
Agreed.
just a poor excuse. Tony, your thoughts on Goose the cat actually being the cause and the reason why Nick Fury loses an eye?
I mean, you kind of just, though you expect it the whole movie because they teased it like 4 or 5 different times with him getting so close with either the cat or in the early bits of the movie that like he obviously got hurt in the eye. So they kept throwing it around, and then would I say I'm disappointed? A little bit, but at the same time, that the humor kind of makes up for the fact, because I just thought it was hilarious. Like that's such a that would be the way that someone like Nick Fury would lose his eye. Someone who's
funny. Don't get me wrong.
right,
but it's not the way. It's not the way of the comic books. So
exactly. And not only that, it's not the way it was already how many movies ago portrayed very dramatically as to him trusting somebody.
That's right. And Captain America, I believe, the Winter Soldier. So when he makes that famous statement as far as last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye. So I don't know. I'm not in love with it either. I think it should have been under more heroic circumstances. Maybe in the Bogota scene, that Bogota situation that he talked of, where he went ahead and saved the diplomat's daughter and whatnot, or saved Robert Redford's daughter and all that. So I don't know. That's just going into details. Even more so in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I agree with you, Jamie, 100%. Guys, it's been great talking to you both in this non-spoiler and spoiler thoughts when it comes to Captain Marvel. Just appreciate your time. Check out everything that they're doing on GameSource and also their Twitch channels. Just so great to have you guys a part of the Pop Culture Cosmos.